Hey guys, it's Sarah from Just My Typewriter, and I had the awesome opportunity to go on a typewriter pilgrimage. So I've seen in lots of advertisements and in lots of research looking at different typewriter companies that Hartford seems to be the hotbed of typewriter activity. So as I was driving to Boston for a vacation, I decided to stop at a ton of typewriter spots along the way, and I went to a couple sites of original typewriter factories. Lippy, get off the counter. Now, not all of these typewriter factories are in Hartford, Connecticut, but quite a few of them are spread throughout the state. So I decided to kind of line them up and stop along the way at all of these different typewriter factories, starting with the original Blickensderfer factory. Now, the Blickensderfer typewriter was patented in 1892 as a fully portable typewriter that could compete with some of the other brands at the time, like Remington and Hammond and Yost. They started at a different facility on Garden Street, but eventually by 1896 had kind of overcome that factory facility, so they built their own location here in 1896, and they employed over 200 people here and produced over 10,000 typewriters before closing in 1919. Now, what's really interesting about the Blickensderfer typewriter is it was constructed to be more scientifically efficient. So if you know anything about the original typewriter designs, the Scholes and Glidden typewriter was one of the first kind of iterations of our typical standard layout for a keyboard. It does have all the letters to type out typewriter across the top, and the original design for this was so that none of your keys would get jammed as you were typing based on which keys you use the most. Now, Blickensderfer designed their typewriter in a different way so they don't have all those key mechanisms, and they also had a very different keyboard. George Blickensderfer designed the typewriter keyboard for his typewriter based on which letters are used the most, and he found that these letters are used in over 85% of English words, so he put them all on the home row. Now, on a traditional typewriter or on a Scholes and Glidden typewriter at the time, this would absolutely jam all of your keys because they'd be too close to each other, but with this design and the design of their key mechanisms, there was never any typing errors or jams, and it did make the user more efficient. So that was kind of the major selling point for Blickensderfer, in addition to the fact that they were the first fully portable typewriter. Now, being the first factory that I really saw on this trip, I was a little disappointed to see that the factory is partially demolished, but there was a historical society grant awarded for $1 million to help clean up the area around the Blickensderfer factory. There is some remediation needed in the ecological area around the factory, so part of the building had to be removed in order to make sure that it was safe. Eventually this will be turned into something like residency, but for now just half of the building stands there. There is a fence around the property to keep people out of the way until it is ecologically remediated, which makes sense, but this was the first factory that I saw in Connecticut. And you can't really tell what was here. There's no placard or signage anywhere. In fact, I wasn't even sure that I was in the right place until I found a news article about the Historical Society trying to preserve the space. So I was a little disappointed by not really getting to see up close and personal the factory site of the Blickensderfer typewriters, but I had a few more sites to go, so I got in the car and drove to Middleton. Or Middletown. Middleton? Middletown? So the next stop on the trip was the Keating Building in Middletown, Connecticut, which housed the original Noiseless factory. Now, the Keating Building was owned by the person who first patented the motorcycle, William Keating, who did design this building in the 1800s. It was built somewhere between 1896 and 97, and he held the patent for the first motorcycle. In this building, the wheel company, or the Keating Wheel Company, did make a lot of their bicycles and their motorized bicycles, but eventually in 1909, the Noiseless factory took up residence here in the Keating Building and operated as the Noiseless factory until about 1924. Now, you've probably seen the Noiseless logoing on quite a few different typewriters, including Remington typewriters, but the Noiseless company started its incorporation in 1909. They then moved to this building in November of that same year, and originally they were producing about 12,000 typewriters a year with a goal to make about 36,000 typewriters a year by 1912. There were quite a few financial issues with the original Noiseless company, dating all the way back to 1913, but in 1924 they decided to merge with Remington. Then in 1927, Remington merged with Rand Cardex, which is an office supply company, and they became Remington Rand, which is why you see all these typewriters with Remington Noiseless, Noiseless, Remington Rand, and eventually they even merged with another company, Sperry, so then you get Sperry Rand. This building's also the site of one of the most noted strikes in employee labor union history. So in 1936, about 1,000 workers walked out of this building, citing that they had low wages and lack of negotiations from upper management. The National Guard was actually called in because the strike was getting kind of particularly violent, and then James Rand, who owned the company, decided to hire replacement workers, which aggravated things even worse, and he ended up in litigation. The strike ended in 1937, but no actual changes were made until the 1940s. Because of the strike and the lack of workers, the factory actually had to close and then eventually reopened as the electronic division of Remington Rand. In the mid-1940s up through the 1950s, this factory here in Middletown was actually authorized as a federally funded facility. After the merger with Sperry, this facility was then turned into an accessories factory where they made things like plaster plates, microfilm, typewriter ribbon, and carbon paper up until the mid-1970s when the plant officially closed. The building was eventually then remediated ecologically and turned into kind of a local area for lots of local businesses, including several breweries and a CrossFit. There's been some more interest in learning more about this particular building because there was a documentary made on the Keating building in Middletown, but I emailed the director and they haven't gotten back to me with any more information on this physical site. It was very interesting to see the actual building still standing and filled with lots of other companies. I had the opportunity to walk all the way around the building itself, and it didn't look anything like what I thought a typewriter factory would look like. It was actually quite small compared to some of the bigger postcard visuals I've seen of some of these buildings. I think one of the big advantages to this building was that it was right next to a railway, so it made sense as a manufacturing plant. But the history of this building, I think, goes beyond just manufacturing typewriters. It's also the birthplace of motorcycles and a really important historical site when you're looking at labor history. So this was a really cool stop to have halfway through my journey. Now, the next bit gets a little dicey. There were a few places specifically in Hartford that I wanted to go, including 2 sites that were listed under Underwood's name and 1 Royal site. And I was so confused as to why there were 2 addresses listed for Underwood in my research. And I did have quite a bit of help from a subscriber and Instagram follower, Ben, who helped me do all of this research. He's a Connecticut native and was very helpful in kind of amassing all of this information. There are 2 addresses associated with Underwood, and the first is on Capitol Avenue. Now, Underwood started in New York and eventually moved facilities from New York to New Jersey and eventually landed here in Hartford, Connecticut on Capitol Avenue. Now, this was the original facility where they made some of their standardized or desk standard typewriters for Underwood. Eventually, after the merger with Olivetti, they still did produce things in this factory, but in the 1970s, the site was demolished. It was a massive factory, and now it is home to an apartment complex, which has the Underwood name in the name of the complex. Now, there was a second address listed for Underwood in Hartford, Connecticut, and it was only a couple blocks away. But thanks to the help of Ben and some of his research, I learned that this building, despite being listed as Underwood's address, was really more for bookkeeping and adding machines. They didn't build any physical typewriters at this building, which was built in 1917. Eventually, this building was then turned into a training and service center where they did work on some things and did some training in this building, but it never housed any actual original typewriters. It was eventually closed, and now it is an art gallery and art walk. It's a very impressive looking building. It's really well constructed. It's very kind of physically imposing, which is what I expected out of a typewriter factory, and getting to visit this location felt like I was getting to see a place where typewriters were, even though they were never built in this location. Now, there were some Underwood locations also in Connecticut that I didn't even know existed or missed in my research that I became aware of later. So there was another Underwood factory in Bridgeport, Connecticut, where they manufactured their portable typewriters, and some 4-bank portables from Underwood do have a little label on them that says Bridgeport, Connecticut. Eventually, this location was closed in 1999 and turned into a parking lot. It seems like there were a couple other buildings owned by Underwood in other places in Connecticut, including another location where adding machines were made in Bridgeport, and there are 2 addresses listed as belonging to Underwood in New Hartford, which isn't Hartford, but we can't find any indication that typewriters were physically constructed in these buildings. So as far as I know, the only place where the desk standard machines were made in Hartford was in that Capitol Avenue address, which is now an apartment complex, and the factory I missed in Bridgeport, which is now a parking lot. And this was a kind of strange experience. I didn't know what I was getting into when I went here. A lot of the research that I have from this happened after I got to visit these locations, so I didn't know when I saw the Underwood apartments that ever really was a location where typewriters were made. I just thought that I put in the wrong address in the GPS and ended up at Underwood Apartments instead of Underwood Factory. Lippy, get off the counter. And it does seem that Hartford was really a major location for typewriter construction, because just down the street from that Capitol Avenue and Arbor Avenue or Arbor Street address, I found the original Royal Factory, which was here in Hartford, Connecticut. So they also were in New York for a while, but in 1907 they moved to their facility in Hartford, Connecticut. This is where they actually produced quite a few of Royal's typewriters, and in 1926 they also started producing portable typewriters out of this factory site. I also found a few ads that specifically mentioned the Hartford location, so I did think that was kind of interesting to see graphics of the original building, because the building burned down in 1992 after being closed for about 10 years and abandoned. So this site was covered over with a Stop and Shop. Now the Stop and Shop does have a plaque on the outside of the building. It's the only building with a plaque that references that there was ever a typewriter factory here, and it gives a little bit of a brief history of the Royal Typewriter Company here at this location, despite having a typo in the plaque. There's also a typewriter emblem on the sign as you are exiting the parking lot, which I almost missed. Now, these are not the only locations of typewriter factories ever. There are quite a few in Connecticut, and even I missed some of them. There was a Williams factory that I missed along the way, just a few locations that I had no idea existed. There also apparently was an Elliott Fisher building in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, which I live kind of close to and I didn't know existed. In doing some of this research and getting to visit some of these locations, I feel like I learned a lot about the history of the physical production of these typewriters. I had no idea that there was a Remington strike at any point, and I do think that that's kind of an interesting part of the history of these machines. I get to work on these machines, take them apart, learn how they work, clean them, but I don't always get to know more about the actual companies that produced them or the physical locations where they were made. It's really interesting that something like Middletown, Connecticut had a really big typewriter factory in it, and that you can get machines that were produced here in those locations. So I really got to enjoy this adventure of checking out all these typewriter factories, and yes, I mostly stood there and looked at abandoned buildings in Connecticut, but I really got to enjoy just the physical appreciation of being in these places where there's so much history. And that's just typewriter history, because eventually I went to Boston and got to experience even more. So I hope you enjoyed my little adventure in Connecticut learning about some of these original typewriter factory locations. This was a really interesting project for me. There are articles out there, and I've listed all of my collected research down in the description below if you were interested in learning more about any of these locations, but it is very difficult to kind of narrow down specifics. So I've also listed the addresses for these typewriter factories and the ones that I have in the description in case you'd like to make your own trek through Connecticut to see all these factories. I would not have been able to make this video without the help of a subscriber, Ben, who helped me do all of this research. He started with Middletown, got really interested in that specific factory, and it just expanded his research. So thank you so much to him, and for all of those typewriter collectors out there who have published information about these original buildings on the internet. I appreciate you. I found it, I promise, and it was really helpful as I was trying to schedule and plan to get to all of these locations. And if you are interested in doing your own trek, I've set all those instructions, addresses, all of my research down in the description. If you're interested in more typewriter content, there are some more videos on this YouTube channel as well as on my Instagram at just.my.typewriter. And I thank you all so much for watching, and remind you, you're just my typewriter. Now, if you're still here, in the comments, if you know where any typewriter factory locations are, leave an address below, because maybe I'll get to see another one, or maybe someone lives in an area and has no idea there's typewriter history where they live.